right, a good day to all. Sam here with you. Friday, September 14th. Of course, if it's a Friday, we're going to do an update on Bitcoin. Now, we have not had a tremendous amount of movement since the last video that we did, but there's a few things we can note here and pay attention to. So I've got Bitcoin to the dollar here on Bitstamp. This is a 60-minute chart, and we're really just focusing on what we can determine, what we can ascertain from this pivot low here, going through this what would appear to be an ABC, and then the ensuing corrective action that we're seeing here. Well, pardon me. We get the ABC, we get an impulsive move down, but the question remains, where are we with regards to how this resolves? So when I talk about corrective action, I'm talking about this ABC as I have it labeled currently here. So just a quick review. If we go from the dominant pivot to the high to the pivot low, well, we come up a little short of the golden zone here, and as I've shown this many times here, if we come down to our secondary pivot here, now we go right into golden zone. I think it's not unreasonable to suggest that this is where algos are drawing from, as we have the reaction here at the 50, and then we go golden zone. It's hard to know. Hard to know, right? We can't confirm until we see a reaction at a target. So if we defer, we know that there's high probability that from a dominant swing high to a swing low, there's software written to start selling here at the 50, and we'll keep selling right up and defend to the 618. Now that target is unrealized. That sits down here. We see we've marked this off previously. So we have larger targets from above. This is our short-term target we're looking at, which, you know, it's not conclusive here that we have a pivot, yet we have a candidate for a pivot. So again, just kind of zeroing in on the idea that we've done an ABC and finished here with this. So I mentioned this in the last time, we have this very slight overlap here. It's not on every exchange, but here on Bitstamp, we get a couple of ticks through the wave one pivot high. But I stick with this count. I'm going to allow for that. I'm not so much a purist that I would alter that count. I think we do come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now coming down, right? So if in the larger degree here, if it's A, B, C, and this is corrective, the response here is unmistakable. Hang on one sec. So that being the case, now if we dig into it with a little more detail, let's go down to a 15-minute, where I think here I have it on a 15-minute here. Now we look at this. So let me zoom out a little bit so we can get some more, just some more real estate here to review. So here's our low. We get the big push up off of this. So I'm inclined to give that an A wave. Then it appears we go into a very, very textbook ABC. And when I say textbook, I mean that two ways. One, if we go from swing low to swing high, we come right to the 786. We know a B wave can certainly go that low, right? Anywhere from the 50 to 786. That's where we're looking for that B. But interestingly, we get also, it's technical coming down. So if I go from this A wave looking for the next B wave, right? So here we go, we do almost identical. We just get a couple of ticks through the 786, right where we'd be looking for that B wave. Interestingly here, as what I'm showing here, we go right to the point of control relative to the visible range here. So we have this. Now front run on the target, maybe, but here's what else I noticed. So this is very textbook for an ABC. We're looking for parity between the length of the A wave projected from the B, and if I pull that over, if I've got that right on it, you see it's to the tick, right? So we get the ABC. So we get this, just the perfect combination of confluence here for a hot box, right? So we get our little hot box here. So we have the combination of pattern, price from both angles. So we have the B wave here going to an algo target. Then we have the parity between the A wave projected from the B is exactly 100% the length of the A, and then look at the reaction. So, you know, it's hard not to count that as an ABC. It's different. Now there's not great separation and definition in that A wave, but given the very clear three-wave structure and the technical pivot down here, thus I lean into this as a B wave here, and then coming off of that. Now this is, you know, some question as to whether or not we're done here, because the third wave isn't perfectly technical. So let me clear some of this up. Let's get this off the chart here. So we can clear that up. So we can establish this. So if we're right about this, if we've got a B wave here, well, we're looking for 5 to finish our C wave here. So it would appear that I can go 1 A, B, C into my 2. Here's the question mark. So if I project as we would normally always do from the length of a 1 wave, or I projected from our 2, well, here's our high probability zone. So it's possible that we have something like this, right? That we end up finishing here. But if you'll note here, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into this double top. I'm more inclined to go this direction, even though I don't have a perfectly technical pivot. Look up here. Here's the 2, 6, 1, 8. And plus, since I've had this reaction down, I'm more inclined to go 1, 2, 3. Now, we check that on the retracement, looking for a technical pivot here. Let me get some of this other stuff off here just to clear up the chart. So if I grab from my 2 low to my 3 high, the proposed 3 high, well, I'm a little shy of the 38, but we know anywhere from the 23 to 38 prime zone for a 4, and then it looks like I can finish that. Now I'm on a 15 minute, so I'd have to go down to the 5 minute. But you can see we finish with a 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't get much in the 5th, but I've got pattern. I do have pattern structure here. We don't get a target. Right, so you got to look at it and say, okay, well, we don't get target. Just because there's a target there doesn't mean we get hit. So if I now look for the entire length of the move, so here's something that I point out frequently. Very common for the A wave to make the first retrace down to the 50. Very common. Now look coming from that, if we're again looking for a 3-wave counter trend, if we're right about this being the A wave, then I get this very clear ABC. And of course, again, just as we do, whether it's a 2-wave or a B wave, we're looking for that anywhere from the 50 to the 786. All right, so we get a poke through the 6.5, but the 786 holds it, at least thus far, and we have the perfect type of pattern that we look for. I don't remember if we had this, if we had parity here. To the tick, right? So you saw that down here. So we had this ABC down here, or pardon me, it was back here. So it was this ABC, right? So when you see this happening, then it's not uncommon for that to continue. So just to show you here, so we had the ABC back here. Now it's not uncommon for the next ABC to do the same thing. So we pull this over. Right, to the tick, then we go then we get this ABC to the tick. So I lean into this as a B wave, setting up an algo target down here that's between the 50 and the 618, which is exactly where we'd be looking for a reaction if we're going to go from this swing low to this swing high. But we got to kind of put that all into the larger context and think, okay, well, wait a minute now. If this is an ABC, I'm not treating that as as anything other than an impulsive structure that's finishing my C wave. So we got to think, well, wait a minute, where are we going next? Could this be a 1 wave? All right, so let me pull back out to it. Let's see if I can do it in a 30 minute. So we start putting this together and think, well, okay, where are we in this larger count? Well, we've got a lot of targets down below that are unrealized. Let's get this off here. Right, starting with this pivot here. So if we're thinking, wait a minute, if this is an A wave coming down and this is an ABC, we're kind of shallow here. This is what's makes it problematic. So here we get to the 38. Let's get that right on there. So we get to the 38. Now that could be the B wave. Right, so much like a 2 wave, it's not that it invalidates the count for this as a B wave. It's just statistically, you're in low percentages here that the 38 would hold a B wave, or I should say that a B wave would be that shallow on a retracement. So one of two things: either it's revealing a very weak market, or we're not done yet. So what are the alternates? Well, I've got 5 down, so I can't ignore that. So far, this structure gives me a very clean ABC. And I've got this nice contender here. So I'm very reluctant to throw out the alternate of saying, well, maybe it's 1, 2, 1, 2. There's really nothing there that I can really kind of grab onto for a bullish count. I just don't have it. There's not enough subdivision here to really call this a motive wave. It's barely an A wave. Then I've got this very technical ABC. I finish my proposed C wave here, potentially the B wave. So then you think, well, what else is there? Could it be that they're using another pivot? Oh, there's the 50. If I could use the 2. You know, could it be that I have this wrong? Could this just be 1, 2, and then we're going much, much lower? Possible. It's very hard to know what they use, right? 'Cause we can't confirm until we see a reaction at a target. So it's a tricky one here, and we don't really have much to help us here in terms of market geometry. Even if I pull here, well, sorry, wrong one. So if I pull here for my A wave over here, well, I certainly would like it better up here, even if I put a modifier on there. If we go to the shift, you know, the upper edge catches it. We can go modified shift. It's got a little bit of a better hold there. Maybe. What is there anything else we can latch onto? Well, it's very hard to make a bullish case here given this move. Right? This certainly seems to be correcting it. Now, one possibility is that we've just completed a potential A wave here of a larger degree. So if we think about an alternate, well, where else could this be going? That could be A. We're going down for a B. We're going up for a C. So let's get that on a larger degree so it might make sense. So is that put it yellow's fine. Okay. So is that possible? Well, it is, right? So we could have this just doing an A wave here. So we're going to end up with some sort of more complex correction, but the length of time and the symmetry has to be considered here. Now, this is only a 30-minute chart, but if this has more legs to go, I'm more inclined to be looking for a B wave down here. So while this is here and we do have some reasonable amount of containment, it's not strong enough for me to really lean into that. So if this is potentially now we'd have ABC. So let's think about what that would mean. Well, we'd be pulling from this low to this pivot up here. We know B wave can be 50s, can be down that far. So prime zone from 50 to 786, but ideally we'd catch it in here so we could get on board with an algo that would be a buyer here. Defend to the 618. Is that possible? Well, if we were to go, so looking to the larger degree, it would be something like along these lines. We'd be going up here, and then maybe we go down to target. Maybe, or else it's just hypothetical. We don't know, but it's a candidate. So the depth of the retracement here, so pulling from our high here to our low, could we go ABC? Well, but it's certainly there may be a trade here going from swing low to swing high if we come down here between the 50 and the 618 on the idea that you'd be pushing into a larger degree C wave of the ABC of the larger degree. It's possible. That would give us a path to get down here to resolve to one of these targets. But until we break this pivot, we've got to defer to the shorter time frame. So if I go back to the 15-minute, and it just is where I was a minute ago, if we think about that, well, I've got to see some resolution. So let me take this off. So this three wave here, boy, it's hard to call that anything other than correcting this move down. So again, we'll just kind of watch and see here so we can get a better feel for it. So yeah, that certainly could be a B wave given this structure, but then this could go up and put another high. We don't know for sure. We're kind of in between, really in no man's land. There's no way to be certain or even develop a high probability zone because it's so unclear where we are in the larger degree count. Other than what can we say for sure? We have that clean 5-wave impulse move down into this A wave, and we've been fairly technical through this. So if this is going to come down, if this is going to end up doing this, A, B, and we come down here for a C, again, we can't eliminate the possibility that there's another push up here to get them. Let's go back to this. Here's a 45. So you look at that and you say, well, could that work? Could we go A, B, C? Well, yeah, so there it is again, right? So it just becomes a question of what kind of shape does this take, and do we get a pivot down here? So of course you understand what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get us to find a path to get to the 50. So, or any of these prior pivots. Look at this big hole here we have in the volume profile. So we don't have market acceptance here. So I look at this and I'm more inclined to be leaning towards the bearish side, given what, right? So just off of what we see, right? Price and pattern dictating here. So this is an impulsive move down. We're in the process of correcting, but the correction may not be complete yet. That's essentially what I'm saying. So we have an ABC. We have a candidate for this to be complete on the assumption that we have such a weak market that the correction can only get to the 38. Right. The other alternate is that we've just put in an A wave. We go ABC into a B, and then we push up here for a C, and then that takes us down. So I'm not inclined to be an aggressive buyer down here if we were to come down into this ABC, because there's just too much possibility that this is just going to keep going. So I don't like that trade. I can't be certain about where we are. If we pivot down here, well, then we'll take a look at it and see what kind of reaction we get. But how? There's almost no way to count this as bullish coming off of that 5. So even if you tried to go 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe there's a diagonal there. It's hard to get bullish on that. It just really is. I just think we've got to have one more push down to resolve this. So on the outside case that you had 1, 2. I guess you could go 1, 2. No, you couldn't. Right? It's really hard to get a bullish count there, because if we were trying to go 1, 2, 3, we can't have an impulse here. We need overlap, so we'd need a diagonal. It doesn't play as well. If we're going to go 1, 2, 3, if we're going to come down, so let's just explore that for a second. If we were trying to build a bullish case and we were thinking, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're looking for more of an ABC type of pattern than this impulsive wave here. I guess there's an outside chance, but we've already overlapped what would be the wave 1 here. So again, that we're looking for ABCs there rather than a clean impulsive structure here to complete up here. So I'm struggling to get a bullish count there. The best, I think the better way to look at it if you're a bull is to be anticipating that we're the best case scenario here for a bull, if you're looking for a trade, is to look for it down here at the retracement on the assumption that we haven't gotten far enough in this correction of this A wave here, or this 5 wave, however we end up labeling it, that we come down here, that the trade would be from the B to the C. But I would not be looking for a challenge of this old high up here at 7,400. I'd be looking for completion of the larger degree ABC, and then I'd be looking for the next short. Right? That's not me personally. I'm not one to be shorting Bitcoin, but we certainly have many members that do. And then my partner Quan is a master at shorting Bitcoin, and he's having just an unbelievably successful run here. So he'll be giving us an update with his analysis sometime soon, I'm sure. But from my perspective here, so I'm not a short seller of Bitcoin. I find it to be a pain in the ass. So I would be waiting here. There's a potential, maybe a light volume buy here, anticipating that we're going no further than maybe the middle of this range for that 50. So nothing wrong with that trade. I mean, I'm not saying don't trade it. That's certainly very tradable. So even just for the sake of discussion, let's split the difference and we go up towards the 50, try the stop under the 786, 3.78 to 1. That's not awful. Right? We don't know what this looks like as we come down here. Are we going to get a complete 5? So I'm just giving you a couple of hypotheticals as to where we might look for that B and where we might be going. So there's, now you're at 4 to 1, depending on where your entry is. If we hold, are we right here at the 618? I wouldn't give it too much beyond the 786. So even there, that brings it down a little bit. So you can set up a 4 to 1 trade there, giving that a little cushion under the 786. There's 3.8 to 1. If we were a buyer there, but I'd be very cautious as we come up and hit 50% of that range. Right. So that's pretty much all I can add there. Does not look like it's finished yet. So down here, boy, that now we start hitting some of those larger targets, and then it gets very interesting down here. But a lot has to happen just yet. So I'll be back, I'm sure, with an update on Monday, and we'll see how this resolves over the weekend or what kind of price action we get. Might give us some more clarity as to where the next opportunity is. All right, that's pretty much all I can add, guys. Okay, with that, have a good weekend. We'll catch up with you next week.